when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that
That's
you are
false.
the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question.
The FBI's budget peaked at $11.3 billion in 2025. The proposed budget for 2026 cuts that by $545 million. The Domestic Terrorism Operations Section, the unit that coordinates domestic terrorism investigations across all 56 FBI field offices, has had its staff reassigned and is reportedly being considered for dissolution. The National Security Division section handling espionage cases has lost 40% of its prosecutors, and Patel told Congress it will take 14 years to bring the Bureau back to full staffing capacity. Jasmine Crockett sat across from him in a House Judiciary hearing and asked the question, "Those numbers demand, what exactly is the FBI still able to investigate right now?" I'm Thomas Breck. 22 years on Capitol Hill. Let's follow the capacity gap.
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that
That's
you are
false.
the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go
false.
through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye.
The 14-year staffing timeline Patel cited in Senate testimony needs to be understood in its specific context. The GAO documented that the FBI already had 983 vacant special agent positions in 2024 before Patel arrived. That is the baseline the Bureau inherited. What happened after the 20th of February, 2025 added a different category of vacancy, not unfilled positions, but emptied ones. Retirements and resignations, accelerated by concerns over politicization. Firings of career officials deemed insufficiently loyal. And a hiring pipeline that the Associated Press documented is now operating under relaxed standards, abbreviated training for candidates from other agencies. Waived written assessments and panel interviews for support staff seeking to become agents, and prosecutors being hired directly out of law school to fill U.S. attorney vacancies. The compound effect of those two vacancy categories, pre-existing unfilled positions plus accelerated departures, is what produces a 14-year timeline. And that timeline is happening simultaneously with a $545 million budget cut for FY 2026. A proposed additional cut that Patel himself told House appropriators he disagreed with before walking that disagreement back the following day in the Senate. He testified to the House that the FBI needs more funding. He testified to the Senate the next day that the proposed cuts are fine. That contradiction was not a slip. It reflects a director managing upward rather than managing the institution. Crockett's qualification point is more precisely stated this way. Patel arrived without prior service as an FBI agent or FBI executive, and with substantially less experience managing a major federal law enforcement organization than several recent directors. Christopher Wray came from private practice, but had deep DOJ experience. Robert Mueller ran the criminal division. The distinction matters. Operationally, running an agency of 35,000 people across 56 field offices requires institutional knowledge that proximity to national security work does not automatically provide.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed, to do their jobs. You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap, because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there. Even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing, except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice, or whatever you want to call him.
FBI's own budget request for FY 2026 confirms that since January 20th, 2025, the Bureau has made over 6,000 immigration-related arrests. That is a documented reallocation of investigative capacity toward immigration enforcement, a function that was previously handled primarily by ICE, not the FBI. The senators who wrote to Patel and Bondi in September 2025 asked specifically how many employees from Joint Terrorism Task Forces had been reassigned to immigration enforcement since January 20th. That question has not received a public answer with specific numbers. What is documented is the parallel dismantling of the infrastructure designed to track the threats that have historically produced the most lethal domestic attacks. The FBI reported a 357% increase in domestic terrorism investigations between 2013 and 2021, from 1,981 to 9,049 cases. Racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists committed 35% of domestic terrorism incidents during that period, and the most lethal attacks from 2010 through 2021. Anti-government violent extremists committed 32%. Under Patel's FBI, the Domestic Terrorism Operations Section, which coordinates domestic terrorism investigations across all 56 field offices, has had staff reassigned and is being considered for dissolution entirely, according to Senate Judiciary Committee documentation. Simultaneously, Patel's May 2026 Senate budget testimony reclassified the primary domestic terrorism threat as nihilistic violent extremists, a category defined as people who want to collapse society through indiscriminate chaos. That classification does not appear in prior FBI threat assessments and represents a departure from the racially and ideologically specific categories that domestic terrorism analysts have used to track and investigate actual attack patterns. Changing the classification does not change the threat. It changes who gets tracked.
I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts that you cannot dispute.
Patel's statistics are real. 34,000 violent crime arrests, a 112% increase from 2024. 1,800 gangs and criminal enterprises disrupted. Over 2,250 kilograms of fentanyl seized. Those numbers appear in his own May 2026 congressional testimony and are not in dispute. What is in dispute is the attribution and the cost. The violent crime arrest increase reflects Operation Coast to Coast, a surge operation that deployed personnel to 33 field offices focused on open-air drug markets. That surge requires agents. Agents diverted to surge operations are agents not running their prior assignments: counterterrorism cases, cybercrime investigations, public corruption probes, espionage cases. The 40% drop in National Security Division espionage prosecutors is a documented parallel consequence of the same period. The question Crockett was asking, and that Patel's arrest statistics do not answer, is what is not being investigated, because the agents who would investigate it have been reassigned. Here is the operational reality the 14-year timeline represents. The FBI trained its special agents at Quantico over approximately 20 weeks. Building the institutional knowledge to run a complex counterterrorism investigation, developing sources, mapping networks, coordinating across field offices and intelligence agencies takes years beyond that. When a career official with 20 years of counterterrorism experience is fired or resigns, the replacement hired under relaxed standards does not arrive with equivalent capability. The gap between authorized positions and operational capacity is not just a number. It is a measure of investigations that will not be opened, threats that will not be tracked, and cases that will not be built. Crockett's question was not rhetorical. It was an oversight question about resource allocation in a law enforcement agency whose budget is being cut while its missions are being expanded and its most experienced personnel are being removed. Patel's answer was that he does not give a damn about criticism and that his arrest statistics speak for themselves. Those statistics speak to what the FBI is doing. They do not speak to what it is no longer able to do, and that is the question 14 years is the answer to. I've seen how Washington works. This isn't it. Thomas Breck Unfiltered. If this breakdown gave you something real, subscribe. No noise, just the record.